Hello everyone and welcome to The Single Parent, brought to you by Christ Our Shepherd Ministries. My name is Jennifer Dow and we're here today to bring you fresh perspective and real solutions to today's single parent. And today I have with me Kim Laughlin, and we are going to be talking about a lot of things actually. And you hold a BA degree from Winthrop University in psychology, and then you got your Master's of Arts in Christian counseling from Gordon Conwell Seminary, and have over 25 years experience in the counseling area.
Yes, I do.
You also have experience being a single parent,
Yes.
and counseling a variety of different issues and topics too. So tell me just a little bit more about yourself and why you're here today.
Well, the Lord called me into the ministry in this area because, as 2 Corinthians says, we are to minister to others in the manner to which we have been ministered to. And going through my divorce situation was really terrible. It was probably the most horrific thing that has ever happened to me, and certainly to my children. And so I ended up being a single parent, and it was hard. But I had the great blessing, fortune of being in a church, a very supportive church, where not just my Sunday school class or my children's Sunday school teachers or youth pastors, but practically the whole church became involved to make sure that we were taken care of through the process and then afterwards.
What a blessing.
I mean, when you're a single parent going through a divorce, what do you do when your sink breaks and you don't have any money? Well, all I had to do was pick up the phone.
Wow. Something definitely a big pull for being in the body of Christ.
Yes.
How much we need that. So in terms of just parenting in general, how would you define parenting in a concise way, you know?
Well,
and as more specifically, single parenting?
Well, to be a parent, whether you're single or otherwise, it means that you have the physical, emotional, spiritual, and legal, usually, responsibility for another person, usually a child.
Yeah.
And according to our society in America, you are a child until you're 18 and emancipated. Which, for a parent who has someone else, a spouse, to share that with, some kind of partner to share the child rearing with, it is hard enough. But when you're a single parent, unless you are taking care of yourself first, you can't do anything for your children. Too many people get caught up in the whole, well, I have to put my children first. I have to put my children first. When that is not what God says. We're to put God first. And in doing that, we're taking care of ourselves. And research, there are tomes and volumes of research that have proven that as long as the parent is healthy and well and okay, the children will be. I have some clients who they're a family of 5, mother, father, and 3 children, and they're living out of their car right now. But the kids are fine with that because mom and dad are working together to keep everything in place. So it's not about where they are or what's happening to them. It's their understanding of who they are, their safety and their security is about this.
That's huge.
Yes, it is.
Well, before we go on to what you said about their identity, how does the type of world we live in affect this concept of parenting?
Oh, if we lived in the world that God had designed in the very beginning, if you go into the first couple of chapters of Genesis, you find out what God's plan was. Well, then the fall came.
Yeah,
and
that was
we're
a bad
living
day.
in the fallen world. Yes, we're living in the fallen world with all those consequences. God's will is going to be accomplished because it says so in the last couple of chapters of Revelation.
Yes.
But there again, we're not there yet.
Right.
Unhappily, we're not there yet. We're still, all of us, every single person is living in a fallen world. All of our behavior is pretty much determined by what we have learned. When we're born, we know how to breathe and we know how to eat, and that's about it.
Right.
Everything else is learned. So if you, as a parent, single or otherwise, can teach your children the basic foundational principles upon which they're supposed to live, you know, they will be all right. Mm. But it's a hard thing. They're going to be confronted, because we're living in a fallen world, they're going to be confronted by an awful lot of things. And as a parent, you can't cover everything. You know, you can't control everything.
It's very stressful when you think about it too.
But if you prepare your children, I guess the basic concept would be like God sees us. When God looks at us, He separates out the person from the behavior. Mm. He loves us. Our behavior may be absolutely sinful and totally unacceptable to Him.
Right.
But we are always acceptable to Him. He loves us.
Okay, so when we're in this, because we're in this world that's fallen, we have to separate a lot of things. We have to separate all sorts of things. The list really could be endless.
But the major thing you want to learn yourself and to teach your children is separate out the person from their behavior. Somebody could really do something terrible to your child that they have no control over. You know, somebody comes and beats them up at school. One of the tenets that you want to teach your child is that behavior does not have to define what your whole life will be like.
Wow. Yeah, you know, there's an author that I love, and I actually was at a Bible study last night studying this book, and the saying goes, what you do does not define who you are.
That's right.
It's who you are that defines what you do. And really, it's who you believe you are that defines what you do. And you already mentioned a little bit about identity, and I have a sneaking suspicion that this whole identity concept is going to be foundational. Exactly how is it foundational in beginning that relationship, building that relationship between you and your child? Can you expand on that some more?
Yes, you can. Between parent and child, you have to remember that you are the parent. That does not mean you have to be bossy, authoritarian, and do it because I say you're going to do it. You know, God doesn't tell us that in His Word. God says, I love you and I will always do what is best for you. To teach your children that, you need to be telling them, as God tells us, it won't always be fun. You know, God didn't promise us a rose garden, and you can't promise your children a rose garden. You cannot promise your child that when they go out of your door in the morning that something bad is not going to happen to them. You can prepare them to handle whatever comes along.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't have to mean death for them. They don't have to choose to step into anything that is wrong.
Okay. So let's specifically just dig into this issue of identity, because this is foundational to preparing our children for the real world, to how we discipline our children, how we relate to everyone around us. What is our identity? I mean, how do we go about navigating that as an individual for ourselves, and then how should we be looking at our children?
One of the ways you should always be looking at your family, all of the people in your family, whether it's a multitude of children or grandparents or aunts or uncles or any other important, significant individual that's involved, is everyone is uniquely created by God. He is the one who decides if you're going to be an extrovert or an introvert, whether you're going to be somebody who can talk to anybody about anything at any time, or someone else who's a little more reserved and shy. God has created people that way. So say, for instance, you know, a father tells his son that he's going to be a football player. Well, if God did not create him with the stature, with the thinking, with the want to be a football player, that father is going to be so disappointed it's going to impact his relationship with his son. That father's job is to find out who God created that son to be. You know, he may end up being a newspaper man. He might end up being a swimmer. Who knows? Your job is to find